Hello friends and welcome back to another video. Today we will learn about Tailwind, my favorite CSS framework. But before we do that, I just want to thank you all for your likes, subscribes and views and shares. It's really encouraging for me to see you guys liking my videos and I just want to thank you. So let's dig in. I have my HTML open and I'm zoomed in here to 100%, right? And a live server is running just like my other videos. So let's go to Tailwind CSS website and see what it is. It's a utility-first CSS framework. So let's see what is utility. Let's go to the documentation, utility first, the fundamentals, and you can see here it compares how a traditional CSS would work and to create this card and how Tailwind would work to create the same card. So it's a lot easier because they have these pre-existing classes that you can apply to the elements and achieve the style you want to. You don't have to think about specific values. You don't have to think about the units or the names that you give to your classes. It makes your work a lot easier. I've been using Tailwind for a long time now and I just love it. So we're going to see how we can use it in our project. So let's jump to installation. If you just want to play around and go along with the video, you can use the playground because it's a nice editor, online editor. And it also says here, everything here works just like you install it locally. So nothing will be, you know, uh, different from me working here or if you want to work here. So it even has the autocomplete. It's quite nice. So, but I'm gonna use the CLI because we want to learn how to install it eventually, right? We have to use it in our projects for, let's say you want to deploy it for production, you want to optimize it. So it's important to know how to do it. You can also use the CDN if you want to, by copy pasting this script into the head element of your HTML. But let's jump to CLI. For that, you need npm or Node.js. So make sure you have Node.js installed on your computer. And to check if you have, after the installation, to check if it's working and you have it, just go to the terminal. And I'm going to clean this as I was just playing around. And if you just type npm, it should give you the version number. If it gives you an error, which means you don't have it or it's not in the path of your computer. So just go through the installation again. Okay, so the first step is to install Tailwind with this command right here, npm install -d tailwind. Enter. So you can see so many packages got added and they will be removed for production. So the next one, we need to initialize the config.js file like we see here. So I'm just going to copy paste the second command, npx tailwind css init. So this will create a config file where we can configure our Tailwind and how we want it to behave, right? So this next step is to add the path to the files where there might be Tailwind CSS classes. So let me explain this one. So in the config.js, which we just initialized it and that one got created, in the content, we have an array which asks one of the values. We can provide a string and say go to the same folder, right? And look into any folder and look into any file that has the extension of HTML or JS. And look if there is any if there is any Tailwind CSS classes that is unused, just remove them. Okay, so this is for production purposes to make things optimized and tidy. So I'm going to save this and close it. The next step would be to create our own CSS file so we can copy paste these Tailwind directives. So back to the project, I'm going to add a CSS file, call it input.css. I'm going to copy these, going back here, paste them, and there we go. We have 3 components or layers or whatever they call them. And I'm just going to close it. We're not going to use it for now. And the next step would be outputting or building our actual CSS file with all the Tailwind classes. All we have to do is say npx tailwind get the input with the flag -i. So it's the same folder and we called it input.css. So the input would be the file with directives in it, right? With the CSS directive, with the Tailwind directives in it. And the output, so -o, would be whatever file we say, output.css. Okay, and enter. All right, so you can see now I have my output CSS here, and this is a big file with all the comments necessary to explain what these are. And you can see, for example, you have the CSS reset. We have some, you know, default values to reset the default browser values the way we want it, the way Tailwind wants it. Now we can customize this for our own good, but we cannot customize this file because this is an output and it keeps regenerating or rebuilding. And if we add something here manually, it will be deleted. And I will show you in a second what I mean. So let me close it for now. And I'm going to minimize this a bit, going down a bit. So right now we're good, right? So still we are showing the default styles. I'm going to link my output. Of course, I need to link it. Link the output.css. Where is it? There we go. And you can see it's already reset to Tailwind default values. So now, just to make sure this is working, we can say class, for example, text, which targets the text itself, and say 5XL. This is the size, the font size, and if I save it, nothing happens because again, this needs to regenerate. So instead of calling, I'm sorry, this is a bug. I don't know why VS Code does that. I'm going to clear the terminal, paste it again. Oops, no, wrong. I don't need to paste it. I need to press up. So I'm going to regenerate it. So take the input, go to the output, but this time watch it. So using the watch flag and pressing enter. So you can see now the font size of my H1 is 5XL, or in other words, this is being done. So when we apply this class text-5XL, it applies the font size of 3 rem, which is 48 pixel, and the line height of 1. So this is fantastic. I don't need to do all of this. I just have to do this. Let's say I want to change the color, right? Again, I'm going to target the text because I want to change the color of the text and say, for example, I don't know, purple, and then a number. These numbers show how lighter and darker they would be. And it's quite clear. I don't even have to say anything. There we go. And because this is watching the output file, so whenever there is a change, this gets regenerated. So now, this is why I said we cannot change the output file. For example, if I have H1, H2, H3 here, right, and it says font weight inherit, for example, yet I'm going to change the font weight to 900 and save it. Of course, this will change the font weight to 900. Now, if I come back here and save my HTML file, which will regenerate this, see what happens? It goes back to, I refresh the page. It goes back to what it was because, again, it was edited or it was added manually. We cannot do this. There is a way, actually, there are a couple of ways to add manual CSS to it. So we will learn this through adding different things to our project. Let's say we want to add a custom font rather than the default fonts, right? So for that, I'm going to use Google Fonts Puppins. I have selected my variations, the variations of the font puppins I want, and I'm just going to copy the links. This part is similar to any other project. So, and add it to the head, save it. Nothing's going to happen, of course, because we are not saying anywhere the font should be this. So with traditional CSS, I'm going to copy this one. We would come in here and say, for example, in the head, say style, body, and this. This would work. Okay, now it's Puppins. Now, again, because we are following Tailwind, we don't want to do this anymore. There are two ways we can apply this custom font. And I'm going to delete this. Okay, so the first way would be going inside the config.js, and we have this theme key value pairs, right? And then we are saying extend the theme, so don't override anything. Extend it and choose the font family, just like JavaScript, not like CSS, right? Font family, and go in there. Now, this would ask for a name. For example, my font. So whatever custom thing you're adding, you can give it a name, which would be the key, and the value is the actual values that you're applying. In this case, we are applying a font, so Poppins and sans serif for backup. Now, if I save it, nothing's going to happen, but we need to apply this my font to our project. So on the body, because it has to be applied to the body, right? Everywhere on the project. I format my document. I'm going to say on the body, class, my font. The reason I just choosing the name because I want this IntelliSense come in to show you something. So you can see here it says font dash my font. This my font is the part we gave it a name. Now if I save it, there we go. Now we have Poppins on our project. Easy peasy. So two things here, or a side note, if you will. This pop-up is because this extension, Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. So I strongly recommend installing this one if you're using VS Code because it's very helpful. So it's from tailwind.com, css.com. Anyway, that was just a detour. Back to the project. Now, if you use the custom font this way, so adding it to the config.js, we need to come in here and actually apply it to different elements. Let's say this is something that needs to be applied to different elements, so we use it this way. A better way, if you have something global, a better way, I'm going to delete this, I'm going to delete this. So we can go to the input file where we have the directives and use layer directive to target a layer. This is a base layer. This is regarding the base layer. I want to say that my base layer, go to the base layer, apply this HTML, or I'm sorry, this CSS to the body. So again, copying this one. This is just like the traditional CSS, right? And save it. Let's just wait. There we go. It takes, I don't know, 2 seconds it took to apply it. So this can be done this way. So this, again, we would put this in the style sheet or a style element, but now we're just adding it into the Tailwind directives. That's one way to, two ways to apply custom CSS. Now let's create something together with using Tailwind so we can learn more about it. So going back to Tailwind documentation, we have this components, which is a quite, sorry, I want to open in another page, another tab. So Tailwind UI is a beautiful UI. It's very clean. I really love it. But we're going to create something out of here just for practice. And I'm going to go to the navigation part. So there we go. Nav bars. And I'm going to create this first one. That's why I had that image. So just a simple navigation. We're going to create. So you can see it has hover effects. It has some ring around this guy, which is quite, clever the way they did it. But we're going to do our own style kind of thing. So what I want to do in my HTML, oops, sorry. I'm going to minimize, make this smaller because we really don't need it anymore. This is just watching it anyway. I'm going to create a nav. And the first thing I want to do is to have a div with some A tags in it that says, for example, home. I'm going to copy paste this. And then, I don't know, about, kind of generic website thing, services, and for example, contact. Save it. There we go. It's up there. And then another, let's say image. No, I'm just going to say A, and then there's an image in it because I want it to be a link for some reason. I don't know. And I'm going to choose the logo. Give it a width of 30. It's too big. There we go. Okay. So again, one of the good practices that I do, I always give it a background so I know where I'm working, right? So in this case, we don't actually have to go, we don't have a CSS. We are working with utility classes. So I'm going to apply the classes I want. So the first one is background, for short, BG. Quite easy. Now, you can see I'm not getting the IntelliSense. So one trick I learned is just to add a space and then start typing. So BG, let's say slate 900. These colors, I know these classes because I've been working with Tailwind a lot. But if you don't know any, like you don't know which class should you use, you can use the documentation, which is awesome. One of the best documentations ever I've seen. Just search for example, background. You can see background, 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 background. And all of these things, let's just come in. Background size, repeat, position, origin. And you say, for example, okay, now there's no background here. Just click in one of these. This is actually showing you the whole background category. There you go. See, background size, background color. There we go. And we have a whole category just for colors. There, look at the colors. Fantastic colors. Let's get back in there. So first thing I want to do, I want to make these go across from each other. That means they need to be flex. The display of the parent should be flex. And all we have to say, we just say flex. That's it. Bam. I want to align the items on a y-axis center. So remember, in CSS, we would say align item center. With this one, we just say items center. And if you hover over it, it says what it does. Now, the next one would be justifying content between. So across from each other. There we go. And the text, so every text within this parent should be white. So text dash white. The text is too big. Let's make the text smaller. So again, text dash, you can see here, if I go left, if you go up and down, you can see what they do. X S extra small, small, base, which is the same as it is, large, a bit bigger. So I'm going to choose the very small, and there we go. So I'm going to show you another trick thing just a second. I'm just going to give it a padding to show you something else. So padding, P for padding, dash 2. This will give it a padding of half a rem or 8 pixel all around. Now, if you want to apply padding up and down, same amount to top and bottom, you say padding Y, which is the Y axis. I'm going to say 2. And padding X, which is the X axis, left and right, I'm going to say 3. So more on the left and right, and then top to bottom. If you want to go clockwise, again, top, right, bottom, left, you can say padding top, for example, 2, padding right, and so on, right? Now, before I move on, let's say in some cases, you really need to do your own way and you don't want to go apply, custom classes, and you don't want to bring, you don't want to extend the theme. It's just one time thing. Let's say this color, I want a very specific color, okay? And Tailwind doesn't have it. And there is this thing called arbitrary values, I think. Let me see. That's, yeah, arbitrary values. And this is how it's done. So with the brackets. So let's say I don't want this BG slate 900. I want just some other color. I can say BG dash and then provide open and close brackets and then provide whatever value I want. In this case, I want the color, for example, 21, 21, 21, the hexadecimal. And you can see it's already picked it up. There we go. I want, I don't know, my text instead of X is extra small, which is 12 pixel. I want it to be even smaller for some reason, 10 pixel. There we go. And you can see how it's being translated to the same value you wanted. So you can see how Tailwind is powerful, and you can play around and just do almost anything you want to. And you might think, okay, this is getting out of hand already. I mean, just one element has so many classes, and we're not even done with it. So how is this even better than CSS because, again, you don't have to think about giving it a name. And these classes can apply to any element. And if you, for now, for example, this is the only element that would have these classes, but I will show you how to avoid repetition in these. For example, when I want to apply classes to these 4 elements, right? Let's do this. For example, I have I'm going to call them nav links. Okay, so I'm going to select one of them, just one of them. So I'm going to say class margin right. So much like padding, remember we said margin, M for margin, R for right. I'm going to apply 3, maybe 2. So there's a space after it, not before it. I don't want before it. And I'm going to say padding Y should be 1. Padding X should be 2. BG, for example, background, again, to see where I'm working, something lighter. Okay. To give it a sharp, rounded corners, we can use rounded. And again, these values, SMMDLG, I think is quite clear. It's just more values, right? Just gets higher and higher. So I'm going to use MD. There we go. For example, you want to give it a shadow. We just call it a shadow. Shadow, what kind of shadow? Big shadow, small shadow. Let's say, again, LG or MD. These are just examples. I wouldn't really actually use this. Let's say I want the shadow to be white. Again, for some reason. This is just to show you you can actually do anything you want. It's just so powerful. Now, I don't want to use the shadow. I'm going to delete it, but I'm going to keep the rest. Okay. The font, I think we're good so far. Margin right. Now, the reason I'm putting a background, because actually this has to be an hover. So I want to apply this only on hover. There we go. And it's right there. There is no transition, so it's snappy. Let's apply a transition. So I'm going to say transition all duration, which is again duration, of course, as you can see here, transition duration. 200, no 300, so 300 millisecond, and then ease in and out. So transition time function, ease in and out, and that's what we have right now. Now I want to apply this, all of these classes to all these 4 elements, and I can copy paste it, but that would be repetition, right? So what we can do, we can come back to our input again. Now here, I don't want to apply it to the body or some element, to all the elements. This is very specific. So actually, I want to have my own class. So again, like CSS, we can actually here provide a class with a dot, right? Remember in vanilla CSS, you say dot something, that's the class. So I'm going to call it navlink. That would be the name I choose, right? And then to add those, you could again use vanilla CSS to say all of those, like margin left, margin right, right? You can say margin left 2, padding y, x, da, 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 da. You can do all of this, or you can just copy this and using the apply directive, add those and end it with a semicolon. So bam. Now I can call this nav link on my elements. So instead of all of this, I'm just going to say nav link, and I'm going to copy this and apply it to all of this. There we go. Bam, 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 bam. And you can see, super easy. This is pretty much like CSS, vanilla CSS. Yeah, to show you this, we can achieve it with the same thing. I'm just going to create and show you how much different does it make. Margin. So I want margin right. So this is 2, which is 8 pixel, right? 8 pixel padding. Let's see how different does it make. So we have padding 4 pixel and 8 pixel. So 4 and 8 pixel. Okay. And what else do we have? we have border radius for rounded of MD, which is 6 pixel. And what else do we have? Transition all 0.3 second, and ease in and out. And the only thing is left is the hover, which we cannot do it here. What we can do, it's say nav link. Let's see if it works. I want to see if it works. I wouldn't do this because normally I would not do this. BG, so background, and slate 600 is, what color is that? So it's RGB this. I'm gonna copy the whole thing, huh? There should be another. There we go. Well, I don't have this variable. You see, this is coming from a CSS variable, and I don't have it, so I'm gonna delete it. See what kind of a. All right, I'm gonna keep it as it is. So I'm gonna delete this for a second. See how it works. It works the same way, but here it is. This is the difference, guys. And so this amounts to this. All of this. Let me actually put it outside so we can see it. It cannot be outside, but I'm just going to show you. So all of this adds to this. So again, it really, at the end of the day, it goes down to your preference. I really been working with Tailwind and I love it. So, but if for some reason you find it too much or it doesn't work for you, that's also fine, because as you just saw, you can achieve the same with normal CSS. And keep in mind, I'm here zoomed in again, so that's why it looks super duper big. Okay, now let's talk about the image. Again, we're just practicing the image on the other side. This has to be class. Again, give it a space. Rounded. This time it has to be full, so it's like 1000 pixel. It doesn't work because this is the same thing that we had in my CSS video. We just want to say overflow hidden. That'll do it. Let's say I want to give it a ring. So you see, these are the things that is actually good. For example, let's see this ring. I just want to show you ring 2. You can see all of this CSS that you see down there. It's done with one word, ring. And if I apply it, you can see a kind of a bluish thing. So it's the default color. I'm going to say ring. What color did we use for the text? We used white, so I'm going to say white. There we go. Now I want to make this hover, so easily I can say this ring should appear when I hover over it. Now, right now, I want to apply this same transition, right, to this one too, but I cannot because I don't want these. So what I can do is just easily create another class, and I just call it my transition. I can't think of any name. Transition. You see, this is why I like a Tailwind, because I don't have to think about these names. I'm going to cut this, put it here. Oops, I forgot the apply directive, and I forgot to end it with a semicolon. Now, I actually need to apply this because this doesn't have it now, right? To this. Ah, my goodness. Click, 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 click. There we go. Bam. So now, not only my links have that transition, but this guy has it too. Isn't that easy? So we're almost done. I think, I'm just going to go through these and talk about a few other aspects, but you can see how easy it is. And I genuinely love this framework. And you can do a lot of stuff. You can customize it the way you want. And there are so many things you can do with Tailwind, and it's so easy to implement. And one of the concepts they have, it is mobile first. So, responsive design is very important these days. It's been important for many years, in fact, but their approach is mobile first. So that's why when I design, I always have it side by side, because I always want to design for a mobile first. Because when you go, let me expand this one. when you expand it like this, for example, I'm using a big screen, so I don't want this to go more than, let's say, more than 1280. My screen is 2500 something, the width of my screen, so it's not even in this range. Going back to the design, to the project, sorry, on my body, I can say it shouldn't be on the body. Okay, but just to show you something, it shouldn't be on the body. It should be on the parent, for example. Let's say on the nav, I'm going to create a div just above the nav and wrap the whole nav inside the div. Okay, and I'm going to give the class bg slate. This is duplication, and I just want to show you something. And this, and now here I can say max width. Okay, so this is again CSS. We're saying the max width of my content of this body or this nav, I want it to be XL or 2XL. So XL makes it, you can choose what you want. Now, one of the good ones that I always use is using the screen, basically using the, view width. So we're saying max width should be, for example, this one, XL. It's 1280 pixel. If I save it, and if I save it now, let's see what happens. Let's see, why is it not working? LG. Okay, now it's working. So it wasn't working for something. I guess, oh, because I'm zoomed in. Silly me. You see, right now this is 100%. And this is what I would normally use, right? So I'm going to zoom in 150%. Silly me, I forget that. Sorry. Now, we're saying the max width should be XL, which is 1280 pixel. Now, this is not centered. I can easily say margin X, which is margin left and right auto. That's margin left auto, margin right auto. There it is, centered. And in fact, this has to be applied to my nav, and that's why I provided that div with the background, because I didn't want those white spaces. So this just to show you, you start from a smaller screen. I'm going to put this back here. You start from a small screen and then go higher and higher. So for example, you say this H1 by default is 3XL. Just why not, right? I'm sorry, when the screen gets bigger, you go, for example, when the screen is large, okay, make the text 4XL, and I'm gonna make it actually, I want to show you. So for example, if it's SM, make it text large. Okay. When it's MD, medium, make the text 2XL. When it is large, make the text 5XL. I'm going to make this XL, and I'm going to make this XL. I'm going to make this 2, sorry, 4. I'm going to make it somehow so we can see. Okay, so let me expand this again. Hello, where did it go? Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to inspect it. I'm going to use this, go this. So look at this H1 element. So you see how it's getting small, big, bigger. That's it. I think I provided 3 different sizes. So what it does here, you can see SM, it provides a media query, for crying out loud. With 2 letters, you create a media query. Isn't that easy? Now, granted, you want to apply this SMMD to every element that you want it to be responsive. So it's kind of, again, that's why I say it's preference, that how you want to use it. But in my opinion, again, this is very fantastic. I hate media queries, and this has been very helpful for me. So anyway, this is how you can use media queries and responsive design. So again, there are a lot of, you can have dark mode, you can see. It has actually a dark, pseudo thing, if you want to call it a pseudo selector. So reusable style, which we already talked about it, how you can, you can even loop. Yeah, there it is. Sorry. So you can loop through things. It's very powerful. Again, I love it. And again, these, like CSS, there are a lot of properties you can use, and you can get better and better with practicing outline, offset, and you can see this. I love this one, outline, offset. So I'm going to apply, for example, this one to my image, just playing around, guys. So instead of a ring, come back. Come back here. So instead of zoom in, instead of that ring thing, I'm going to say outline, offset 4. There we go. Too much offset. Isn't that fantastic, guys? The reason I started this video because I want to make a website, and like a whole website using Tailwind and a bit of JavaScript. So that's why I wanted to make a video about Tailwind so you would be familiar with it. So I think this is it, guys, for this video, and I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this has been helpful. Let me know in the comments what you think about the videos, and I really appreciate your likes, subscribes, and views, and shares, and everything. Thanks for watching, guys. See you at the next one. Bye bye.